Hello, I'm April Ross with BTV, and today we have with us Mayor Jim Thornton of the City of LaGrange. How are you?
Doing great, April. Glad to be with you.
Yes, sir. Mayor Thornton, time is winding down, as they say. You have 1 week to go to be the mayor of LaGrange. And tell us, first of all, what's the new journey like for you?
So it's an exciting time. It's a time of transition. It's a stressful time. I have thoroughly enjoyed serving as mayor now for almost 9 years. 4 years before that on the city council. LaGrange is my home. I of course grew up here, and after law school came back here in 1997, and I've been practicing law here for 25 years. So it's very much a big move, a big time of transition for me, taking on a new role with, if you will, statewide responsibility. But I'm excited about it. I think it's a good fit. I think it's something that I will enjoy, and I feel like I am leaving LaGrange in a good place. And I think the city's in a good place. We've got great council, wonderful city manager, great staff. I just feel like it's a good time right now in LaGrange.
Well, let's just go back, starting with when you first started to run for mayor. What made you want to run and be the mayor of LaGrange?
So I initially ran for city council in 2009, and to be honest with you, what prompted my interest in city council was my work through the LaGrange Chamber of Commerce, because I saw how much the city was involved in the economic development work that was going on. And what I observed was that the city or local government doesn't create the businesses, doesn't create the jobs, doesn't do that themselves, but they can either be helpful or they can be harmful in the process. And I wanted to make sure that the city of LaGrange was helpful, and that if private businesses, entrepreneurs like yourself, wanted to start up a business and make a go of it and take the risk, I wanted to see that the city of LaGrange would be helpful. So I ran for city council, and that was sort of my agenda. I want the city to be supportive of the business community. Served for 4 years on the council, and then Mayor Lucan, after 16 years as mayor, decided not to run for re-election, and I at that point I was like, okay, well, I've been on council 4 years. I've learned the role a little bit, and I think I could take it to that next level of not just being involved, but also being the sort of the chief advocate, if you will, for the city. And that's really what the mayor's job is. The mayor doesn't get to vote. I don't, unless there's a tie. I don't get to make a motion. I don't hire and fire people. That's the city manager's job. Everybody in the city works for her. But the mayor's real job is to be the advocate for the city, to explain to people how things work, why they work the way they do, and why the city of LaGrange is a great place to live, to work, to raise a family.
When you ran for mayor the first time, and everybody has a platform, everybody wants to see change, everybody go in saying, I'm going to do this. Have you seen those things come to pass for you?
So when I ran for mayor, my platform was pretty simple. I wanted to maintain the financial stability of the city. I wanted to expand economic development in the community. I wanted to support public safety, and I wanted to improve quality of life for the citizens. And I think we've managed to do all of that. The city is in great financial shape. The city of LaGrange has great bond rating. We have cash reserves. We're doing well financially. We weathered the COVID crisis as a city, and came out, I think, strong on the other side of that. From an economic development standpoint, and we could talk about specific projects, but wherever you go, whether you're downtown, you're out at the interstate, you're out by Lee's Crossing, you're at the mall, wherever you are, you're seeing economic development happening, and that's exciting. I think that our investments, and we've made some strategic investments in public safety, to address the growing gang issues, to deal with, to put cameras around the city, to try and, make our police and more responsive to community needs. I think that's been a great thing. And on a quality of life standpoint, when you look at the Thread and you look at the parks and you look at the amphitheater, I think we've really accomplished a lot. So I feel good about it. I mean, I'm willing to stand on my record and say that, you know, I did what I tried to do, what I committed to in 2013 when I ran for mayor, and I think the city's in a better place today.
And you were the mayor who went through COVID, had to make some changes privately. What was that like for you?
It was probably the most difficult. Two things as mayor, 9 years, 2 times I look back on that were incredibly difficult. One was the unexpected death of our longtime city manager, Tom Hall. When Tom died unexpectedly at a very young age, in his early 50s, you know, it was basically for several months there, I kind of became the acting city manager in a way. I mean, people, you know, were sort of looking to me. We named Meg Kelsey as our interim city manager, and she was doing a great job, but she was also applying for the job, and so that created, you know, some discussion and so forth. And so I was involved a lot more in the details, working with Meg, working with the other department heads. I was a lot more into the details during that time than I had been before or after. And then the second really difficult time was COVID, because it was so unexpected. I mean, when I ran for mayor, you know, you always want to think about the good times, right?
Of course,
the Christmas parades, the 4th of July parades, you know, the celebrations. But in your mind, you always say, okay, well, there's some bad things that could happen, right? We could have a big business close and have a huge layoff, or we could have a police shooting, and that could cause some turmoil in the community, or we could have a downtown building burned to the ground, which has happened in LaGrange in the past. You know, there's some things you're like, okay, these are what's going to be bad, and this is what I need to be prepared for. I'll be honest with you. I never thought we'd have a pandemic. I mean, that was not, if you asked me what were going to be your challenges, having a pandemic was not one of them. But I think the people of LaGrange pulled together. We did on the local level what I wish everyone had done across the country, is we followed the medical advice. We didn't overreact. We didn't go into panic mode. We didn't feel like we had to, board up our windows and never leave the house. But we followed good, sound medical advice from our local doctors and nurses who were saying this is serious, but if we take it seriously, we can get through it. And that's what happened.
Ultimately, we did.
We did.
And just seeing the community come together, because you would see businesses send food to our hospitals for the nurses and doctors. What do you want to say to those who were on the front lines during that time?
I mean, we will always be grateful for them, because, during that time, some of us were able to stay home. Some of us were able to do our work remotely. But the healthcare workers were not. The first responders were not. I mean, those, they didn't have the option. And so I think as a community, nationwide certainly, but particularly here in LaGrange, I think we'll always be grateful to them. I remember participating in the prayer event when people surrounded the hospital with prayer. I mean, there were some great showings of community support in LaGrange and in Troup County, and I think that's something to be grateful for. And I felt it. I mean, during the worst times of it, when we were having to make decisions about shutdowns and having to make decisions about masks and having to make decisions about what's the best practices and how do we keep people safe and all that. One day I woke up and some kids in my neighborhood had come to my driveway and with chalk had written, "Thank you, Mayor Thornton," at the end of the driveway.
Really?
And and I just always remember that. I mean, I don't know who it was. I don't, to this day I don't know who it was, but it's like and I wasn't doing anything, but just, it was that sort of notion of gratitude that we're thankful for everybody who is involved. We're thankful for everybody who is trying to find their way through this. And I will say also, it was kind of, during that time that so much attention got focused on, obviously the president, always attention on the president, but the governors and the mayors were really who people across the country were looking to. And so it was a stressful time, but we made it through it, and I feel good about where we are.
What, as you look back now, what is your most thing that you're most proud of that you've accomplished as mayor? for LaGrange?
So I wouldn't say there's one individual thing that I would single out and say, but I would say it's, for me, what I'm most proud of is an experience, and the experience is being able to drive around LaGrange and see things happening throughout the community that are improving the city, and that it's not isolated, that it's not limited, but that it's spread throughout the community, whether that's economic development projects, the parks, etc. I feel like one of the things that I have tried to accomplish is to create a culture at the city that unites people, and that tries to say, look, I may not get what I want today, but I may get what I want later, but we're in this together, and if this is what you need in your neighborhood, in your community, etc., I want to support that. So it's this sort of notion of us all being in it together, and trying to do what's best for the city as a whole. LaGrange has become a big city. I mean, 32,000 people. You start driving around and seeing all the stuff happening. I mean, we got a lot of stuff going on, and you can't just look at one thing in isolation. You have to look at it as the big picture, how it all works together.
Earlier we spoke with Dr. Edmondson, who mentioned about one of the things was purchasing the old Mansour's building, and now looking at Courtyard Marriott. What is your take on that?
Oh, I think it's been great. I think it has been transformative for downtown LaGrange. I mean, I was actually on city council when we voted to purchase that property, and we didn't know what we were going to do with it. And it was a big risk, but Dr. Edmondson and I both were, it was unanimous. All 6 council members voted for it. But we knew that it was such a prominent piece of our downtown that we had to make sure it improved the community and wasn't an eyesore, wasn't a detractor. And so we made that investment, and then a few years later, when I was mayor, I was able to meet with the hotel developers who had done the Courtyard in Carrollton, downtown Carrollton. And they were thinking about doing something here, and as mayor, I was able to suggest that location to them. And it was, took us a year. These things don't happen overnight. Took us a year or two to work through the details and negotiate and all of that. But just to see what it has done for the square physically, but also to see what it's done for downtown in terms of people, as a people attractor, it's really been a great new project in the community.
Courtyard Marriott. Then you got Great Wolf Lodge.
Yeah, the Great Wolf was a really big win for us.
Yes.
It was they wanted to be in Peachtree City, and Peachtree City Council turned down the rezoning, and they started looking for other places around. And I remember when the developers came, and Tom Hall was still alive at the time, our city manager, and Tom and I went and had lunch out at Longhorn with the 2 guys from Great Wolf who were interested in siting a location, and it started the conversation. Again, it took a couple of years to get that done, but huge investment. They made a $170 million investment. They built a 450 room hotel in the water park, and the other thing that has done, in addition to just bringing people to town and exposing the community and giving us that publicity and all, it also Great Wolf and the Marriott really infused new energy into our tourism effort. It infused new cash because of the hotel motel tax, but also just renewed energy and attention, and it prompted the mayor and council to revisit tourism and to reimagine tourism. I think that has turned out to be a great thing. We have the new visitor center, which is beautiful. We have a great staff, top of the line staff, Visit LaGrange board, and I think all of that has really taken our tourism game to the next level. We've always had tourism. We've had West Point Lake, we've had Hills and Dales, we've had the art museums, but really the addition of Great Wolf, the cash that brought to the tourism effort, coupled with the new energy of the Visit LaGrange effort, has really stepped up the game.
Now, and as being in the media, and I often cover a lot of events.
Mm-hmm.
I see you everywhere. And
Yeah.
what I mean by that is that you are a mayor for the people.
Yeah.
I see you at different events, and I've heard people say, he was at the haircuts for kids
Yeah.
over here. What made you just be for all the people here in LaGrange?
So, when I ran for mayor, I knew that I'm the only person elected citywide. Mm-hmm. Everybody else in the city, all the city council members are all elected by district.
Right.
But I'm elected citywide, and I wanted people to know that I am the mayor for everybody. That doesn't mean I can do everything everybody wants, right? I mean, 31,000 people, and there's 31,000 different opinions. I mean, everybody has a different agenda. But I have wanted to be accessible. I've wanted to know to people that I listen, which doesn't mean I can solve all their problems, but I'm willing to listen to it. And I think part of the job of being mayor is being present, mm-hmm. is being in the community, is being accessible, is being willing to show up at the haircuts events, at the pastoral anniversaries, at the parades, at whatever is going on, and be because that's what makes local government work. Mm-hmm. So local government, it's so much easier for an individual resident to access their local government than mm-hmm. it is the state or national government. State and national government may get all the attention, governor, president, Congress, etc. But if you really want to be involved, if mm-hmm. you really want to affect change, if you really want to improve the lives of your neighbors, mm-hmm. I think local government is where you can have a really lasting impact. And so I think that it's a two-way street. The local government officials have to make themselves available, and we have to encourage our residents to get involved and to not just complain, but to try to help solve the problems. And mm-hmm. I'm pleased to say that in LaGrange, there are examples of people who don't just complain. Mm-hmm. They roll up their shirt sleeves and mm-hmm. they get to work. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to always be there to support that.
One of the things that I've covered, but I saw you get involved and spoke about it, and that was when Ahmaud Arbery mm-hmm. was killed. And why did you feel the need to say something?
So
during that time,
yeah. So when Ahmaud Arbery obviously was killed in Brunswick, but that was 2020. Mm-hmm. In 2017, Chief Dekmar and I had participated in an apology event mm-hmm. for a vigilante lynching that had occurred in LaGrange in the 1940s, Austin Calloway.
Yes.
And I remember distinctly talking to people at the time and saying to myself, okay, this occurred in the 1940s. When a young black man was accused of a crime. Maybe he did it, maybe he didn't, we'll never know, because he never had a chance for justice to take place. And a white mob pulled him out of police custody and took him out into a rural part of Tripp County and murdered him. Mm-hmm. And Chief Dekmar and I felt like that while none of us were alive at the time, mm-hmm. the institution of the LaGrange Police Department, C. LaGrange, was complicit in that in the 40s. And so we felt like the need for the acknowledgement and the apology event. But I remember distinctly saying to people, I'm so glad that was the 1940s and that would never happen today. Mm-hmm. That would never happen today. And I was convinced of it, uh-huh. that it would never happen today. This was 2017. So 3 years later, we had a vigilante family suspect mm-hmm. a young black man of committing a crime. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. We'll never know, because again, they took law into their own hands and took justice away from them, and to me that just stung, mm-hmm. and it stung because it, while I'm not a black man, and I can't relate in that sort of sense. What stung me was that I thought that was all in our past. And mm-hmm. I didn't think that could happen today. Mm-hmm. And I sure didn't think that if it happened today, that there would be an effort by the police or the district attorney's office to brush it under the carpet, right? I mean, that just offended me. It offended it personalized it, because I had been involved in that apology event, and I had convinced myself that
this would never happen
not
again.
Not in 2020.
Maybe a pandemic.
And so that's really what I mean. That just really stung, and I felt like that some people needed to speak out about it. And I'm so delighted that justice was ultimately served, and different the Attorney General's office got involved at the state level, and the state legislature even changed some of the laws on citizens' arrest. So there was some good that came out of it, even though Ahmaud Arbery's life is lost, and that's something you can never get back. But there was some attention brought to it, and some. But we joke sometimes about you're live from the Beehive, and you show up with your camera. But honestly, if there hadn't been video of that, I'm not sure how that would have turned out. Yeah. Right. So I mean, it's a great thing to celebrate, but there's also some wrinkles to it that you need to kind of that I'm sure people will always be cognizant of.
So now you've decided to move on. Tell us about your new position.
So what I have done is I have accepted a position as Director of Governmental Relations for the Georgia Municipal Association. So I will be managing the government relations, lobbying, advocacy team for GMA. GMA represents all the cities in Georgia. So myself, as well as the other members of the government relations team, will be advocating on behalf of all 537 cities in Georgia, including LaGrange. That includes the city of Atlanta with 500,000 people. That includes Edge Hill with 24 people. There's a lot of cities in Georgia, and GMA is their principal advocate, at the state and federal level. And so I'll be the director of that government relations effort, which I'm looking forward to. I mentioned I've been practicing law 25 years, and in my law practice, I'm an advocate. I represent clients. I advocate on their behalf. As mayor, I have gotten really involved in municipal policy and understanding the way that cities work well, and when cities have challenges, how those can be addressed. And so I think this will give me an opportunity to combine those two tracks, those two parallel tracks in one advocacy role. And I'm looking forward to being involved in the conversation around state policy issues at the state level.
So Dr. Edmondson is now the pro tem. What is your advice, or have you given him any advice?
He doesn't need any advice from me. Dr. Edmondson is. Dr. Edmondson's great. He's been on the council the whole time that I've been on council or mayor. He's been a great advisor to me. He and I have worked on many issues over the years, and I think he knows the way the city works. He's very supportive of our city manager, our police chief, our utilities director. He understands all of those processes that are in place. He understands what makes LaGrange work well, and he will do a great job in this pro tem role. It'll be a short-term duration. I know, when someone was comparing it to when Drew Ferguson stepped down as mayor of West Point, and Mayor Trammell stepped in West Point. When that happens, the mayor pro tem becomes acting mayor until the next regular election, which in Steve's case was about 2 years later before he had to stand for election. In our charter, it works differently. The mayor pro tem simply occupies the role until a special election can be held, which will be in March.
Correct.
So Dr. Edmondson will only serve in that role until March, and then in March the council will have a special election. All city residents will vote to select a mayor for the remainder of the term, and I've As of today, there are no announced candidates. I've heard a few that are talking about running, and I think I'm sure after I officially resign, which will occur on the 23rd of November.
Yes.
Then I'm sure at that point there will start being some conversation about the election.
What do you hope to see LaGrange be in, since I know you're resigning, but what do you want to see LaGrange in 5 years?
So I think LaGrange is poised for continued growth, population growth, commercial growth, jobs growth. I think that the initiatives we have underway, dealing with parks and trails, are going to continue to bear fruit and going to continue to make LaGrange an even better place to live. It's hard to look in a crystal ball and see what what the future holds, but I would think that LaGrange will continue to grow. Over the next 5 years, we'll continue to add new amenities for the community. The thing about, sometimes people tell me they want revolutionary change, right? Revolutionary change is not sustainable. Revolutionary change is a pendulum swing. I mean, it goes from one extreme to the other. It's great for a few years, and then it bottoms out, whatever. Incremental change is what is sustainable. And what I see us experiencing over the last few years and continuing is incremental change, incremental growth. 5-10% population growth a year, a few new businesses added here and there, new projects bringing new jobs. So that to me, that's what has sustained LaGrange for the last decade and is going to continue for the next.
Okay, my last question is, what do you want to say to the people, the citizens of LaGrange?
So April, I am eternally grateful for this opportunity, because as a resident of LaGrange, born at City County Hospital in 1973, graduate of LaGrange High School, LaGrange College, someone who's lived here and considered this my home my whole life, and still considers it my home. Even though I may be working in Atlanta, I'm still going to have a house here, and I'm still going to be registered to vote here, and this is my home. But I will be always grateful for this privilege. It has been the honor of my life to serve as mayor, and I know I've made some mistakes along the way, and I ask forgiveness for that. But I do think that we have managed as a team to put LaGrange on a good place and set some things in motion. And just to the people of LaGrange, thank you. And that's what I would like to say.
All right, Mayor Jim Thornton, good luck to you. Many blessings. That's what I like to say to you. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is April Ross with BTV.